Welcome to another evening of our great discourse. If you have been following me on this channel, you will discover the fact that I stated that at the fall of man from the Garden of Eden, at the fall of man faced two existential challenges, two big major challenges. The desire to reconnect with the Maker, which led to religion, and the desire for existential survival. Now, making this particular video, if you have missed that, please follow us. I'm making this particular video because of some issues that have come up, which many people, especially in Africa, do not understand. Now, if you look at the problem, because many people in Africa are talking about other regions, other continents, mention them, whether it's China, whether it's Europe, whether it's in Asia, that they are all making progress. And why is it that in Africa they are all talking about religion? I said religion is a big problem. Religion is created by man, and because religion is created by man under the influence of Satan, religion continues to be a big problem to man. A big problem to man. It's one of the major challenges of man, because in the course of man trying to invent a way of reconnecting with God, man stumbled into religion, and since that time, religion has been a major problem in all over the world, especially in Africa. Now, you will also discover the desire for existential survival, and this desire for existential survival led to people rising up against others, nations rising up against others, nations rising up against nations, the desire for existential survival. If you look at imperialism, colonialism, whatever ism you call it, totalitarianism, fascism, all are desires of man for existential survival. If you look at wars of conquests, wars of expansion of territories, if you look at wars, they are all desire for existential survival. And this desire for existential survival is not only nation against nation or nation between nations. No. It's not only organization against organization, it's all in all ramifications. Families against families, individuals against the other, groups against the other. Even within families, you could see people of the same mother and father fighting against each other for existential survival. So it's not only in a particular continent. No. So the only desire that we have is that people are playing on a lot of things. Nations are playing on a lot of things. Groups are playing a lot of things. Individuals are playing a lot of things. They play on politics. They play on military conquest. They play on religions. They play on culture. All factors of man, they play on that in this particular desire for existential survival. And so I want to clarify that, because sometimes some people will say, oh, why is it that other continents are making progress? Why is it the other areas are making progress? And Africa is not making any progress. Instead, they are talking about religion. You have to realize the fact that religion has become a problem of man, because man created religion under the influence of Satan. You have to also discover that man is using religion, extending religion to other areas for existential survival. Now, because of that, it's not that religion per se is the only problem of Africa. If you say the other problems are there. For example, we're talking about desire for existential survival, which led to colonialism, imperialism, and all the isms that made other lands, other nations, other empires, other continents to try to subjugate Africa, or try to subjugate other people, including China, including Singapore, and all other areas. You could see that particular desire for existential survival leading to the subjugation of one group by another, of one individuals by another, of one ethnic group by another. What is playing out now, even in Nigeria and in other countries, is the desire for existential survival using religion, the desire for existential survival using politics, the desire for existential survival using military power, military prowess, the desire for existential survival, even among the developed nations of the world, call it China, China, India, Pakistan, America, Britain, Europe, call them, of all organizations, call them Russia, they are all desire for existential survival, and that is why. Now, if you look at Africa, let me take Africa for example. If you look at Africa, you find out that even if you remove religion per se, even if you remove religion, you have not removed imperialism. You have not removed colonialism, which is another form of imperialism to subjugate Africa. And you have not removed the fact that through imperialism, the West and other continents, they are playing on individuals in Africa to rise against each other, to rise against themselves. And that is why you see ethnic groups in Africa rising against ethnic. Have you wondered why there were some leaders, few leaders in Africa who desired development, who desired to develop Africa, who had pathways to develop Africa, but other nations of the world, other nations from Europe, other nations from America, other nations from the rest of the world did not allow that leader to survive, did not allow that leader to execute that plan. Do you know why? Desire for existential survival. Because they had in mind that if there should be a good leader to pick up this particular vision of developing Africa, they are going to be threatened, and that's why they continue to kill leaders who would want to develop their countries, African leaders who want to develop their country, who want to engineer. Not only the main development is not only they want to engineer proper development by going into science and technology, by going into manufacturing, by going into all other facets, by going into redevelopment, science, technology, manufacturing, but they will not want those people to be. Do you know why? It's the desire for existential survival. So it's not only that Africans are busy praying. There are so many leaders in Africa who desire the development of Africa, but because of this desire for existential survival, other nations of Europe, other nations of America, other nations of Asia will not allow that leader be. In Africa, they will execute the leader through all their institutions, through all their governmental institutions, whatever name you call them. They will mastermind the killing of that person. They will mastermind the overthrow of that person, and they will play one ethnic group against the other just because they want to continue to subjugate those nations. And that's why some of these nations are not coming up. It's not necessarily because of religion. Religion, yes, is a factor. Religion, I have said religion is a factor because religion is not spirituality. We have to go to this spirituality and godliness in order to understand what is at stake. So I have to clarify that before I go into my next video, and I pray that you follow my next video so that you will understand actually what is playing out. But I'm just laying this foundation in this particular video, stage 1, for you to understand what is playing. That it's not religion. It's not that Africans are busy praying. There are so many Africans who don't belong to any religion. They are not Christians, they are not Muslims, they are just traditional religions. They follow traditional religion. Okay, they follow their traditions. Of course, those are concocted by also the devil, under the influence of the devil. But they are following that, and with that, the idea they are gotten from this traditional religion or whatever name you call it, they are able to propel development in Africa. But guess what? The desire for existential survival comes overwhelmingly on this religious sentiment, on this desire to develop nations, on develop Africa. And because of this desire for existential survival, they will not want that leader be. They will not want that leader to carry out major development strategies, major development plans that will propel Africa towards the next level of development. And that's why you could see some areas like China picking up development. It's not that China is not religious. China is religious after all. China follows into Buddhism, and they go into this. Okay, China follows Buddhism. Most of their leaders follow Buddhism, and they are keen to it. Why is it that in spite of that, China have been able to pick up development? What of India? India follows Hinduism. Well, that is their religion. But that has not stopped India from developing. They have been able to develop amidst their religion. In addition to that, in addition to Hinduism, in addition to Buddhism. And why is it that such is not the case in Africa? Ask yourself that question. So it's not the issue of Islam. It's not what I'm saying is, yes, religions have played a very damaging role in the development of Africa. But you cannot only isolate religion, that's the only factor that is preventing Africa from becoming developed. No, that's not it's the desire for existential survival. That religion is being played out within a particular area. For example, Nigeria, that religion is being played within among ethnic groups, within the same ethnic group, among the same set of people, in a particular community, they play religion. In a particular, even within family, they play religion. Okay, so it's not religion that per se that is preventing Africa from getting developed. After all, Europe was religious and they got developed. Okay, Asia religious, they got developed. I've cited China, cited India, cited Pakistan, North Korea. These were all religious people and they had their own religion. They had whether Buddhism, Confucianism, Hinduism, they had all these religions, but they were able to develop. And so what is preventing Africa? What is preventing Africa is a predominant rule over the desire for existential survival, which Africa has not been able to overcome. In short, Africa is fighting this desire for existential survival within and without. But the influence coming from outside is so overwhelming that Africa has not been able to overcome this particular factor, this particular challenge. And that is what is playing out in Africa today. And that is what is keeping Africa down. The desire for existential survival by the West, the desire for existential survival by other nations and within nations. If you take, for example, in Nigeria, you find ethnic groups, the various ethnic groups competing for this particular desire for existential survival. And the outside world, the West, Europe, and other nations, they are now cashing onto this. They are playing one ethnic group against another, using religions, using ethnic groups, and using all factors at play in order for them to keep these nations down so that they could continue to tap their resources for survival. So the desire for existential survival is one of the primary factors in addition to the religions created by Satan in Africa. Okay, that's why. So follow me in the next video because I have to clarify I have to come up with a particular important issue that we're going to discuss. So follow me on that as we go on in that particular discussion.